Thank you, Warden. Twin day, everyone, that means let's go. Welcome aboard Kilimanjaro Safaris, everyone. My name is Madison, and I'll be your safari guide as we head out onto the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. Before we head out onto the reserve, I ask that you remain seated with your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the truck at all times. You'll also want to hold on to all loose items, as the roads out here can get pretty bumpy. Now it looks like we've got the wardens all clear, so we're ready to go. We're going to be starting our journey here in the Little Ituri Forest. Animals that are found here have natural camouflage that help them blend into their environment. Now, I have a few on either side of us. Starting on our left up at the top of the hill, there's the saddle-billed stork, named for that prominent yellow shadow-shaped patch on their bill. While they don't vocalize, they will rattle their bills as a way to communicate. Well, on the right is the okapi. The okapi, due to the striping found on its lower legs, is often thought to be related to the zebra. However, they're actually one of the closest living relatives to the giraffe. Their relation to the giraffe can be best seen in their head shape, as well as their feeding methods. Much like the giraffe, the okapi is considered a browser. This means they'll go for leaves farther up in the trees, using their 14-inch prehensile tongue. Back up ahead on our left-hand side, you can see a black rhino right across the watering hole over here. Now, the black rhino weighs around 3,000 pounds and can charge at 35 miles an hour. They are, however, on the smallest side of the rhino family. Many animals found here in the Little Ituri Forest tend to be very small and compact, especially when compared to those found out in other areas of the reserve, like the savanna. This is because they need to be able to run and break through a lot of the dense vegetation here without getting caught on anything. Just before we leave the forest up ahead here, we are passing by an antelope species also there on our left, known as the bongo up at the top of the hill there. The bongo gets the nickname Ghost of the Forest for the rarity of their sightings in the wild. Leaving the Little Ituri Forest behind us, though, we're going to make our way down to the Safi River up ahead. As we make our way down to the Safi River, we may get the chance to see some Nile hippopotamus. The Nile hippo, when they're born, they weigh around 85 pounds, and they can weigh up to as much as 5,500 pounds when fully grown. Now, from the looks of it, we are stopped, probably for an animal somewhere up in the road up ahead of us. We should be back on the move here in just a few moments. As we slowly get back on the move here, we are going to be passing by a portion of the river over here to our right-hand side. The rest of it's going to be up ahead on our left. Now, all the way in the back right-hand corner of the right-hand side river over here, you can see some hippos. They're currently lying down one on top of the other against that opposite shoreline. Now, because of both weight and density, they're known as negatively buoyant. This means that while they don't float, they'll run or gallop along the bottom of the riverbed in order to get around. They also spend much of their day in the water to avoid overheating in direct sunlight. At night, though, they'll walk many miles away from the riverbeds in order to feed up and along the shoreline. Few more there on our left-hand side, a little ways behind the island out there. Now, hippos, when they come up onto the shoreline, they can actually charge at about 30 miles an hour. While in the water running along the very bottom of the river, they can still move at 15 miles an hour. And up on the island in between us and the hippos are some pink-backed pelicans. They get the name from the pinkish coloration they have during mating season, and they're colonial nesters. This means they'll nest in groups of anywhere from 40 up to 1,000 individuals at a time. They're also one of only 8 pelican species in the world. Now, here's well on our left-hand side, especially up on the opposite shoreline from us, you can see some Nile crocodile. The Nile crocodile averages in at around 16 feet in length. They can eat up to half their body weight, or around 300 pounds, in a single sitting. Afterwards, they can go a few months without eating anything at all. As we make our way away from the Safi River, we are making our way out toward the savannah. As we do, the vegetation here on either side of us will start to change. A good example is here on our right, the baobab tree. They're also known as the upside down tree for the fact that they go leafless up to 9 months out of the year. They do this as a way to conserve water during the dry season out in the savannah, storing up all that water in their giant trunks. They're also known as the tree of life. Making our way down into the savannah, you'll be able to see how it's shaped by the animals who roam through it. Elephants will knock down trees to eat on them. Giraffe will trim up the trees while browsing. And antelope species and cattle will trim down the grasses. As we make our way to the bottom of the hill here, we do have a number of grazing species out on our right-hand side, starting with the Maasai giraffe. The Maasai giraffe here, they are unique for the very uneven patchwork you'll be able to see up close on their coats, whereas the reticulated giraffe have very even, straight-cut patches. Now, they will spend about 20 hours of their day browsing, their way of eating. This is just like the okapi, where they'll use their 18-inch prehensile tongues to get at leaves farther up in the trees. If you've ever seen a giraffe's tongue, it is a dark purplish color, and that's thought to be an evolutionary trait to help keep their tongues from getting sunburned while they eat all day. A little bit farther out in the field alongside the Maasai giraffe is an antelope species known as the Patterson's eland. They are the largest antelope species in the world, reaching 6 feet at the shoulder and weighing up to 2,000 pounds when fully grown. Now, coming up here as well on our left-hand side, right across from the Maasai giraffe, we've got a few more grazing species, starting with the sable antelope down the dirt road and at the back of the field here. The sable antelope, they serve as the symbol of Harambe Reserve, and a bit closer to us here are the Semenkoli cattle as well. They're also known as Watusi cattle for the people who originally domesticated them, and those horns of theirs range around 3 to 4 feet each. Making our way back over toward the Maasai giraffe up ahead, we've also got some termite mounds here on either side of us. Termite mounds like these are made of a combination of saliva, dung, and dirt, and they can get as hard as concrete out here. Larger animals out on the reserve, like elephant and giraffe, will often use these termite mounds as scratching posts, wearing them down until smaller species of antelope can hop on top and use them as lookout towers. As we make our way out into the hills of the savannah here, though, to our right, we are going to be passing by what looks to be 1 or 2 more grazing species out here, starting with the brindled wildebeest to the far right of the right-hand side hill. They're also known as nude for the nu-nu grunting sound that they make. They're one of the second largest congregating species in the world, second only to us humans. They can congregate in groups of up to 1.5 million for their yearly migrations. A little bit farther out toward the center and up along the top of the hill, you can see very small antelope species right by the stump there about midway into the hill. This smaller antelope species is known as the springbok. They actually get the name from the fact that they can leap 6 feet straight into the air from a complete standstill, or 13 feet forward when running. Their name quite literally translates to springing buck. We are, however, going to be leaving the savannah just up ahead here for a moment to make our way over toward elephant country. As around the next few corners here at the very edge of the savannah, on our right-hand side will be the edge of elephant country, while on our left, a small area known as Monkey Point, named after a troop of mandrills that have settled there. Now you can see an African elephant here on our right-hand side, maybe a second one as we pull forward. Now because this African elephant looks to be solitary at the moment, it is likely a male. Male African elephants, once they leave female herds around the age of 12, either go off entirely solitary or in groups of 4 or less, known as a bachelor group. While on our left, back behind the trees, are some mandrills, largest monkeys in the world. While they congregate in groups of up to 1,000, they're actually very shy animals. Now, as we make our way around these next few corners, we're actually headed a little bit farther into elephant country. As we do, it's important to know that one of the biggest threats to elephants is human encroachment. Often elephants will be pushed out of their native habitats toward human settlements, and they'll go crop raiding as a way to easily feed. When this happens, it can lead to human and elephant conflict, but thanks to research done right here at Columbia Reserve, we found that African elephants are actually quite afraid of bees. Using that information and working with Kenyan farmers, we've been able to implement bee fences around properties and crop fields. This keeps the elephants from crop raiding as well as giving Kenyan farmers a secondary income from the honey that the bee fences produce. A big reason though why African elephants are often pushed off of land like you can see out there to our left is for mining operations. Elephants usually live on land that contain large amounts of metals, commonly found in your everyday smartphones and other electronics. And that's why it's so important to reduce, reuse, and recycle many of the electronics that we no longer need or want as a way to protect the elephants and the lands that they already occupy. Now, coming up as well here on our left-hand side are some greater flamingo. The greater flamingo is the largest species of flamingo as well as the lightest in their coloration. They get the coloration over a period of about 3 years from the time that they hatch. And this is based entirely on their own personal diet of brine shrimp. As we make our way back into the savannah though, just up ahead here, out on our left-hand side, dug right out into the middle of the field, there is a mud wallow. Mud wallows like that are often a good indication of white rhino activity in this area. They often dig the mud wallows as a way to cool down, as well as a way to cover themselves in a layer of mud as a form of sun protection and bug repellent. Make our way through the savannah up ahead to see if we can spot any white rhino around these next few corners. You are going to want to keep a sharp eye up on the left-hand side, right up in these hills here. Cheetah have been known to hang around this area of the reserve. You can see one immediately here on the first hill, far left side. Now, they are the fastest land animals in the world, reaching speeds of 60 miles an hour in just around 3 seconds. They're also one of the few big cats to hunt during the day. It's your streak markings found under a cheetah's eyes. This helps them hunt during the day by reflecting the sunlight away from their eyes. as well as the cheetah on our left. Coming up on the left, we're passing by another structure, this one known as a kopie. Kopies are collections of rocks that jut out from the savanna. Lions can sometimes be seen hanging around them as a way to survey the savanna for any potential prey. Now you can see some red up here at the very front of the kopie. Now, a lion's vision actually gets up to about 6 times better than our own at night, as they are nocturnal, and that's when they're more likely to start vocalizing. Their vocalizations, including sounds like chuffs and roars, veer up to 5 miles away. Now on this side of the rocks here we have some white rhino. They're going to be on both sides of the truck. This is a baby to our left. There'll be some more babies up to the right hand side there as well. Now whereas the black rhino we caught a glimpse of in the Little Ituri Forest weighs around 3,000 pounds, a white rhino can weigh up to 5,000. They can still charge at 35 miles an hour. You can also see a warthog there to our left, right at the front of that smaller plateau. While they are burrowing animals, they don't like digging their own burrows. Instead, they'll often reuse older ones dug by other animals. Another closer look at the white rhino there on our right. Now, they actually get the name white rhino from the English mispronunciation of the Afrikaans word "wit," which means wide, not white. That's in relation to the shape of their lips, which are wide and flat. That's yet another difference they have from the black rhino, whose lips come down to a point based on the two's different diets and habitats. Leaving the savanna behind us from here, we are passing by Border Post 20 just up ahead. They've recently brought in some Nigerian dwarf goats, originally to clear out a lot of the weedy undergrowth in the area. However, they also serve a secondary purpose. The goats can produce a large amount of nutritious milk. The milk can be turned into cheese and given to local villages as a form of staple food, or for the village's own profit. Now, using the dwarf goat's milk, the village doesn't have to rely so much on the endangered plants and animals found here on the reserve. Living amongst the wildlife like this, though, isn't without its challenges. Humans living near the reserve are always looking for ways to protect their lives, their livestock, and their crops. Conservation organizations know this and will often look for solutions that benefit both humans and animals. Reserves like Harambe Reserve and those across Africa often work closely with organizations like the Disney Conservation Fund to help fund research and bring awareness to many of the animals you've seen here today. It stands to reason that the more we know about these animals, the better we can do to protect them and their habitats, well into the future. That, however, will be the end of our safari today, so I'll be dropping you off just up ahead of the nearest warden's post. As we approach the warden's post, take a quick look around. Make sure you have all your personal belongings with you, because it's a long trek back to Africa should anything be left behind. For any Wilderness Explorer Scouts on board, you've been riding aboard the Simba 1.